I'm going to say bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, that Tennessee fans don't ever have to worry about Josh Heupel flirting with or going back to Oklahoma. I'm a guy that's very cynical of coaches, but I genuinely believe that he loves it at Tennessee and that he got a raw deal at Oklahoma. So I'm going to say bank on it. Josh Heupel would never, ever go back to Oklahoma. Are you willing to go that far?
Yes, I am. And why would you leave? Why would you leave Tennessee for Oklahoma? Look, there was no love lost when he got fired. I asked him during the offseason, I said, when's the last time you've been back to Norman? I don't know, about 10 years ago. Well, 10 years ago is when he got fired. So I don't think there's I don't think he would go back, in particular with Stoops still around the program. But why would you leave Tennessee for Oklahoma? Isn't Tennessee as good a job right now as Oklahoma?
Probably better because of Danny White and the way he's able to prosgouge his fans and get corporations to give him loads of cash.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Jimmy. So let me play devil's advocate because I guess I got to be the bad guy in this segment. Say Oklahoma decides to just take Bob Stoops out behind the woodshed and shoot him in the head. I'm kidding. I'm joking, but like this decides to fully cut ties with him. You're Josh Heupel. Don't you think that there is a little bit of a soft spot still for your alma mater? I mean, Johnny Majors. What's the difference between Josh Heupel doing it and Johnny Majors, who left Pitt, a great situation at Pitt that won a national title, to come home to Tennessee, which was as bad a program as you could take over at the time, but he did it because it was his alma mater.
Because Majors didn't get fired by Tennessee, and unfairly fired by Tennessee, I might add. The offense at Oklahoma was fine. And in fact, not only did they fire Heupel, they fired Mike Norvell, who, by the way, is a pretty good football coach. And Stoops kept his brother. I'm sorry?
Jay Norvell.
And I didn't hear
you. Go ahead, Jim. There's a little bit of a connection. You go.
Yeah. So lost my train on that. So Majors was never fired. Heupel got fired. Heupel was bitter about that. Stoops kept his brother there. And while he said, I'm not going to make a scapegoat of Norvell and Heupel, he exactly made a scapegoat of them. So, and then when Heupel left, he went to Missouri and had great success. He went to Central Florida and won a lot. I think he won 28 games, but their offense was very good. Now look what he's done at Tennessee. I think the loyalty that Tennessee gave him in this job, working for Danny White, I don't think there's any chance he goes back to Oklahoma. Yes, it is his alma mater, but Saban didn't go back to Kent State.
That's true. I got
I think that's a little bit disingenuous.
I got another bank on it. Bank on it. Tennessee's Josh Heupel, if given the opportunity, will run up the score against Oklahoma. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC. Life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial Banks for personal and business. Commercial Bank, life made better. I want to see what Jimmy has to say about that after we hear from Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank, life made better.
All right, so bank on it, Jimmy. Tennessee, Josh Heupel, if he gets an opportunity, will score a few more points than he needs to against Oklahoma.
Absolutely. I'd go to Vegas and put a line on that one.
It's the easiest one.
There's no doubt. If they're on the 1 yard line and they're up by 14 and there are 20 left, he's going to cram it in the zone. Yes. No doubt.
Caleb, do you have any doubt, Caleb?
No, I have no doubt he would do that whatsoever. I mean, so Jimmy, let me ask you this, because this is all interesting what we're talking about. You brought up in the last segment Peyton Manning and Jolie Dunn I mean, Peyton Manning and David Cutcliffe just lighting up Joe Lee Dunn. That's what made Peyton Manning a national name, was that week at Arkansas. And I think Tennessee, Cutcliffe, and Fulmer had kind of a plan to kind of propel Peyton Manning into the national status. Do you think Josh Heupel has been saving Oklahoma for the game to turn Nico into a national superstar, where he just gets to humiliate Oklahoma, his alma mater that fired him, and use his quarterback that is his prize bull, for lack of a better term, to do it?
I would say not saving him, but hopeful that he'll do it, because there's no guarantee, because Oklahoma does have a very good defense. I do believe that Tennessee's going to have some plays that we have not seen yet this season. I think that Heupel's got a few things drawn up that to try to use against Oklahoma that would surprise them, not counting an onside kick. So I do think that, I think he is hopeful that they will roll it up and they will be able to do that. And if he has the opportunity to put up big numbers for Nico, he'll do it. So I'm going to say more hopeful than just saving it up.
Jimmy, I don't mean this as a shot at Josh Heupel, but I've never covered a coach that was as audacious in his aggressiveness. It's very Steve Spurrier-like with the onside kick and all of that, and the late score against Missouri in 2022. Are there any repercussions for that ever anymore? Because it used to be you would be a bad sport, you'd be a bad person, and you're running up the score. But I don't hear anybody say that nowadays. It's just like, oh, Kent State, kill them.
Well, I do. I hear it. I think it cost them. I think it cost them the Missouri game. I think that Eli Drinkwitz and those Missouri players had that marked on their schedule. I didn't think it was a good thing to do at the time, and I think there was extra motivation for Missouri to beat Tennessee. And not only they beat them, they clocked them. Was it 33-7? And I think it came back to bite them. Now, at least against Kent State, although I don't actually think Heupel wanted to onside kick that. I've had a theory tossed at me that was a special teams coach that saw that Kent State drop back on kick coverage, and the special teams coach called it. I don't think, and if Heupel in the second half did not run it up on Kent State, right? They had 65 points at halftime. They kicked 2 field goals in the second half. But as far as being audacious and scoring late, I think he has done some of that. I do remember him making a comment after running it up on somebody. I don't know what's right or not, because I've got backup players that want to score, and I get that. But sometimes it's not the backups. Sometimes he's left some starters in the game late and scored some more points on people. I hear it from some fans and some boosters that don't like that style. So I guess we travel in different circles, Dave, but I do hear that from people. I know some people like, well, you got to it's your job to stop them. Okay, it shouldn't necessarily be your job to stop starters when it's 60-0. So I see that differently, and I'm not a big fan of it myself.
Fair enough. I can understand that. I just don't. I think it did hurt him against Missouri, but does it hurt him when he does it against Kent State, or is it just kind of cute? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I thought that was a little over the top. Now, I don't want to lay blame at Josh Heupel's feet, because I'm sure you remember the Britton Colquitt, and we've talked about, Caleb and I have talked about this, the Britton Colquitt fake in Gainesville, where he had do you remember that he was punting and he had the option to throw it if they were in a certain coverage, but you weren't supposed to do it on your own side of your 40, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And so, I don't know, maybe it was Turbyville, maybe it was Eckler, but I wouldn't do that again. I would take the onside play out of the playbook when you're playing a team like Kent State.
I would too. I didn't like it. Tim Irwin, who I shared the show with on Sunday morning, co-host, he called it Bush League. He didn't like it. I didn't care for it either. Regardless of who called it, it shouldn't have been done. And yeah, they ran it up on Kent State. They called a timeout late in the first half to score another touchdown when it was 58-0, right? So, I'm not a fan of that. Now, some people say, well, you got to do that to impress the pollsters. Okay. If the pollsters are that stupid to not know the difference in a 40-point win and a 71-point win, they shouldn't be voting. The other part of that is it doesn't matter what the pollsters are saying right now. It's the selection committee. that's the ones you got to worry about. And they got, what, 13 people there? And a lot of them are coaches. Coaches don't like the score being run up on them. So this thought about, well, you got to run up the score on Kent State to impress voters, that's ludicrous. That has no, I disagree with that 100%. And again, it's not what the AP says, it's what the College Football Playoff Selection Committee says.
Okay, Jimmy, so let me ask you this. Are you going to consider a Bush League if Josh Heupel does it to Oklahoma after what Oklahoma did to him and scapegoated him 10 years ago? Are you going to say that's Bush League, or is that fair game because it's Oklahoma and they deserve it?
It's fair game.
Did to Heupel.
He gets a pass based on what they did to him. Yeah, there's extra motivation for that. There was not for Kent State, but no, I wouldn't get in on that. I wouldn't even get on him if he scores a late touchdown to run it up on him. But you got to remember this: if you do that, you're putting yourself in a position of adding extra motivation for that team the next year. And I think that matters. I know some people don't, but I absolutely think it mattered to Missouri. And Eli Drinkwitz talked about it after the game.
No,
So
I think it matters.
Yeah,
Jimmy, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but people have said, oh, once the game kicks off, it's just a game. Well, no, that's not the point. It's how hard do you practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because you hate that team that you're about to play on Saturday. And I will add this to the equation. A very good source told me that Missouri came out in a totally different defense than they had run all year. I don't know if you'd heard that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did. And they came out with a totally different motivation. And so I think that stuff can backfire on you. And I don't think it's necessary. I do believe there should be a place of sportsmanship in the game, except when you're playing Oklahoma.
Fair enough. Jimmy, let's get your score prediction. What do you think happens in Norman sooner or later?
I got Tennessee 38-28. And that may be generous on the points for Oklahoma. Oklahoma's offense is not that good this year. They average less than 350 yards of total offense. Their leading rushers, their quarterback, Jackson Arnold. You know how many yards he's averaging per game on the ground? 53. They don't have a running back that really scares you. They have a really good receiver, a transfer from Purdue named Deion Burks, but I haven't seen a receiver that can take the top off of defense. Now, they've had a couple of receivers that potentially could do that have been injured, and they may return against Tennessee. But I like Tennessee by 10. I think they'll cover.